from every part of the world, from every race, language, every religion. The story of Canada's settlement and human development is a story of cross-cultural encounters that continuously redefine the nature of the country and the people who call it home. It's also about religion and government. There is the story of Jewish settlers in the Midwest at the turn of the century. One group of Jewish settlers in what would become Lipton near Regina, having been abandoned by the government, turned to the local Indians who taught them how to build homes and plow the land. Anglican ministers such as Isaac Montgomery Barr and George Exton Lloyd, who worked with the Government of Canada to keep Canada British and to found such places as Lloydminster on the western border of Saskatchewan.
A group of 2,000 middle-class British urban people mostly who came to Canada for the free land, but also to save Canada for the British, because there were a lot of foreigners and Catholics and French Canadians coming into the prairies that were threatening, and Americans that were threatening to take it away from the British. So this group of 2,000 people came over to try and save Canada for the British. They didn't have a clue what they were doing. And they went through a lot of privation and hardship and finally triumphed in the end, as the English tend to do.
History tells us about the German Benedictines who founded Munster, Saskatchewan, the German Oblates who founded St. Peter's Colony west of Saskatoon, of Father Lacombe who worked with government officials to help French Canadians and Ukrainian Catholics settle in the West. There were times when the effort to create new colonies, such as the French colony Delmas, named after Father Henri Delmas, was at the expense of the people who were already there.
The actual decision to move the reserves, I think Father Delmas was involved in encouraging the First Nations people to sell their land, partly perhaps because he wanted to establish a French Catholic colony, which ended up being Delmas. There is that painful reality that the reserves were moved to much less plentiful land, much more difficult land to make a living off of. There's no way that they wanted to lose that land. They were very successful farmers.
Canada is filled with histories of people who fled their countries to take their chances in a place called Canada. Their successes often turned into compassion as they helped others from their homelands, through their churches, mosques, and synagogues, to immigrate and settle in Canada.
We have a history of small Jewish communities, and St. John being one of them, which banded together in periods of very narrow immigration possibilities to assist illegals who would come on as stowaways on boats. And they would land in Halifax and St. John and even in Montreal. When you come from a background of persecution, you tend to look out for your own. The Jewish community still deals with people suffering from their Holocaust experiences, and their children, and their suffering secondhand through parents. So we do turn inward when it comes to advocacy.
Our agency, historically started providing, services to new immigrants after the Second World War. We were getting a lot of Europeans, people coming from, Italy, people coming from Portugal, people coming from some of the other East European countries. They were really not allowed to practice their own religion. They were not allowed to have their own political beliefs. And often, many of the churches, many of the families in Europe would write to the parish priest here or write to some of the friends or families they knew. So in 1959, formally, this organization was created as a department of, Catholic Family Services.
From my reading of the history of the beginnings of the Catholic Women's League, it's my understanding that the League began to protect the interests and to protect the faith of the Catholic immigrants who were coming to Canada. But that, of course, reflects what the beliefs were at that time. There were many, many representatives of church organizations, particularly the Catholic Women's League and the Sisters of Service, who were there to take care of the immediate needs and the settlement needs of the people who were landing in Halifax.
At that time, people came into the country according to their religion, and then people from that faith group were sent, or that church were asked to meet them at the train, in our case, and make sure they were settling.
For centuries, the story of settling Canada has been a story of the faithful, coping with incredible hardships and learning to help one another. But too often, this history has amounted to a variety of forms of exclusivism that says, my religion, not yours. My people are welcome, not yours.